So I call the meeting of the Central Valley Flood Protection Board of Friday, January 16th to order. Our first item of business is to determine attendance and quorum. So I understand our executive officer is to call the roll? So
yes, ma'am. Member Griego is absent. Member Andrews?
Here.
Member Bosler?
Here.
Member Countryman is online.
Here.
Hello, Mr. Countryman.
Secretary Johnson?
I'm here. Good morning, everybody.
Vice President Valines?
Here.
And President Dolan?
I'm present. I'm here. 5 are attending in person, 1 is online, and 1 unfortunately cannot attend today. Her restaurant was vandalized, and it's horrible.
Wow.
So she can't be online either. She's got a lot of stuff to do. So this confirms we have a quorum and all board members are present, and then also introduces board members. Joining the board here on the dais is our executive officer. You've already heard his voice. Our board attorney, Mr. Dua. Deputy executive officer, Andrea Buckley, and our chief engineer, Michael Wright. Happy to see you. Our next item is for executive officer to provide any announcements or introductions that there may be, and I understand there is.
Yes, I have announcements. Before getting into our regular announcements, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the passing of John Erickson, a respected member of California's flood management community, late last month. At the Department of Water Resources, John dedicated his career to flood operations, where he was widely known for his technical expertise, sound judgment, and steady presence during complex and high-stakes flood matters. His work helped protect communities throughout the state, and many in this room worked alongside him or relied on his insight, including this board. John will be remembered for his contributions and lasting impact on flood management in California. On behalf of the board, we extend our sincere condolences to John's family, friends, and colleagues.
We do. Thank you for that. It's been a painful start to the new year.
I have 2 staff departures to announce. First, Cicia Hurd left the board earlier this month. In her few months as a youth aide, she supported the permit records digitization effort. Cicia demonstrated thoroughness and dedication, learning quickly and making meaningful progress. She was a pleasure to work with and consistently offered her assistance wherever needed. While we're sorry to see her leave, we are grateful for her contributions during her time with the board and extend our best wishes for her continued success.
We do. Maybe we'll see her again, but we're happy to have had her for a time.
Karina Castro's last day with the board is today, January 16th, and she, I believe, is here, yes, all the way in the back. She will be joining the Department of Water Resources, Flood Operations Division.
You know that I want you to stand, so you did it before I said it. Sorry you're leaving.
Karina has been an engineer in the Sacramento levee section since November 2020. She was a team player and was instrumental in supporting levee improvement projects, including work along the Sacramento River East Levee, which is part of the American River Common Features 2016 project. She was also instrumental in processing multiple permits in support of Middle Mile Broadband Project. During her time with the board, Karina handled numerous enforcement matters, evaluated numerous permit applications, and conducted many field inspections. She's known for her excellent work habits, strong organizational skills, and reliability. While we're sad to see Karina go, we support her in pursuing her career goals and wish her the very best in her new position.
And we do. Yeah. Your future board is very happy to get you.
And lastly, I saved the best for last, Preston. Starting in January 2026, the Central Valley Flood Protection Board is now accepting application submissions through the Permit Application Portal, which is an online platform allowing applicants to submit applications for permits maintenance concurrences, minor alteration authorizations, coordinate endorsements from local maintaining agencies, and tracking application progress, all in one place. Please check the board website for more information, and congratulations to the whole team that worked on putting that together, and it's great to see that online. Thank you.
Good job. Can you smile? No, any of us that have touched that kind of activity know that it's pretty hard to put it together appropriately, and now we have it, so thank you.
And that's all the announcements I have. Thank
For
you.
you, okay. I'm going to give a very brief overview of the agenda. It is brief. When we come to each item, there's more introduction and information. Item 4 is the minutes of the December meeting. Item 5 is identified as consent items, and there are 2. Item 6 is the public comment. I think we know about that. It's folks that can come forward for a brief input for things that are related to our work and within our area of jurisdiction, but items not on the agenda. Item 7, our executive officer puts together a legislative update. He may or may not wish to highlight things, but it's time for questions. Item 8 is placeholder today. There will be no activity from or to the Army Corps. Item 9 is board items for vote, and there are 2. Item 10 at this meeting, DWR will provide information on the inspection and local maintaining work throughout the system. We do that annually. It's a good thing. There's also a monthly report that's been submitted by the DWR of their activities. Item 11 are submittals from board staff, divisions, and branches of the information of their monthly activities, and it's an opportunity to ask questions and hear information if we wish. Usually we read it. Item 12, board member give comments and committee updates. Item 12 is basically a list of when we're going to meet again and where. Item 14, is there a closed session, Mr. Dewey? Oh, okay. So for item 14, there will be a closed session. What we're going to do when it, I'll tell you when we get to that. It's always a challenge to figure out when we take a break. If we do, everyone has told me this is a short meeting, and once you say that, you've determined that it won't be. So there will be places that I will call a break. I just don't know when, but I'm certain there will not be a lengthy one for lunch. And so at the end of the closed session, we will adjourn the meeting. So now on to the agenda. All right, board. I like it better when you were like this and I could see you. Now I have to stretch. Good morning to you all. Okay, so we have a quorum. We've done welcome. We've reviewed. We are at item 4, which is the minutes of December 5th, 2025. Our secretary, Brian Johnson.
Good morning, everybody. This is the December 5 minutes. Betty caught another typo.
We count on you, member.
The draft circulated to you all says that the coordinating committee is January 17th. It's not. It's January 27th. And this is part of my new sneaky quality control program where I introduce small typos to see who's reading. And so I move, I believe everything else is in order. So I move that we adopt those minutes with the edit to change that instance of the number 1 to a number 2.
You know, I worked for my dad, and he did that. There was always an error. See if I was actually reading it. Okay. There's a motion to adopt. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Member Bosler seconded it. So anybody want to talk about the minutes? Board, audience, online? Please call the roll.
Member Griego's absent. Member Andrews?
Aye.
Member Bosler?
Aye.
Member Countryman?
Aye.
Secretary Johnson?
Aye.
Vice President Lyons?
Aye.
President Dolan?
Okay, I'll say aye. That motion is passed, 6 in favor and 1 is absent today. Item 5 is consent items, and there are 2. I'm going to ask our chief engineer to introduce these items. They're taken with one vote unless someone wishes to remove. So, Mr. Wright, what do we have before us?
Good morning, President Dolan, members of the board. Michael Wright, Chief Engineer for the board.
Talk so
You
fast.
have two consent items. They are both in order. 5A is to approve permit number 19899, the Buffington Tract Salmonoid Habitat Restoration Project by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in Stanislaus County. And 5B is to approve permit number 20002 by Three Rivers Levee Improvement Authority. And it's their wind wave buffer element of their climate resiliency project that's in Yuba County. Again, those are both in order, and I've heard of no objections from the Corps or any other agencies or individuals. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Member Grego couldn't be here. She'd probably have a couple of things to say about Three Rivers. Do board members have any questions, any concerns, any reason to remove one from the agenda? I don't see that. Anyone in the audience want to discuss one and remove it? Do we have any hands up that want to talk about this? Nope. All right. Then what would be, I would ask for someone to make a motion to approve the consent items as presented. Someone want to make the motion?
I move that we approve the consent items.
Member Johnson, is there a second?
I'll second.
Is that Bosler?
Member Andrews?
Andrews. All right, thank you. All right, we have a motion before us to approve the consent items. There are two, so please call the roll.
Member Griego is absent. Member Andrews?
Aye.
Member Bosler?
Aye.
Member Countryman?
Yes.
Secretary
Joe.
Johnson?
Aye.
Vice President Felines?
In honor of Joe, yes.
President Dolan?
Okay, that's yes. I like the yes. Thank you, Member Countryman. The motion passes. There are 3 ayes, 3 yeses, 1 absent. All right, we're at item 6. This is public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who has public comment they wish to address to the board for an item that is within our jurisdiction and is not on the agenda? You can comment on the agenda items when we get to it. Anybody standing up? Are there any hands up online who
No
wish?
hands up on Zoom.
There's a Zoom? Oh, no hands up. Oh, look what we have now. Wow. Getting used to all this stuff. Okay. Then that's a first for the first of the month. All right, we'll proceed. Item 7 is legislative update. We've received a written report of pertinent legislation, both federal and state. Mr. Leaf, did you want to highlight anything?
Just an update. I highlighted a 3-bill minibus that includes funding for the Corps and other agencies we're concerned with, and that is on the President's desk now after passing both chambers.
Okay, we'll see. Board members have any questions or wanted to bring up anything? Member Bosler?
Yeah, no, I thank you for the report, Mr. Leaf. I appreciate it. You know, the FEMA, the debate around FEMA under this current administration is just really, really troubling to me. I think probably a lot of the public doesn't know the extent that they show up for major disasters, and that includes floods. But they are absolutely instrumental in funding emergency response and recovery. And that's not a week-long process. That is a multi-year process. And I think the recent announcement of letting go of about 40% by people of their employees. These are not full-time employees. These are the surge that really can bring mass numbers of people to help support the operations. It's really concerning to me, having seen firsthand how it works in a major disaster. So that continues to worry me, because what that ends up being is a major shift in both of money and expense to states and local governments if the federal government isn't showing up in the way that they have historically. So I appreciate Mr. Leaf highlighting that article and the current debate going on in Washington, D.C. About the role of FEMA in disaster response. And I just think that's something everyone needs to kind of see with clear eyes. I think unless you've been in a disaster like response posture, you may not understand how it is a very coordinated process between federal government, state government, and local governments. And that ability to surge large numbers of additional people is really something that the federal government has the capability. We do mutual aid, which means, you know, local law enforcement from Los Angeles may go up to Butte County, for example, during the Oroville incident, you know, but they have much more limitations on their ability to surge than the federal government does. So just continue to follow that and be concerned. I'm also really concerned because last week the governor released his budget. You know, kind of, I think to some people's surprise, like we are really benefiting from the stock market and from the artificial intelligence boom that was communicated in the budget presentation by the Director of Finance. But it does feel very tenuous in that, you know, those things can quickly change course. And the current state of the fiscal situation in California is one that there is a structural deficit that was well outlined by the Legislative Analyst's Office earlier this week. And that concerns me for the types of infrastructure investments we need, especially here in the flood space, because this is not a one-year problem. This is a multi-year problem, and it will at some point have to be reconciled. This has been obviously exacerbated significantly by the impacts of H.R. 1, which probably most of you have heard of it by now, which was the healthcare related bill. It was actually had many different aspects to it, but the biggest impact from a fiscal perspective is related to the state's Medicaid program that provides healthcare for low-income individuals, and also the state's food program, CalFresh, here in California, that provides food to low-income families. Both of those programs have some significant cost shifting, again, to states to maintain existing services, and those will have to be borne by the state, not to mention that there are also provisions that will result in many millions of people no longer benefiting from insurance and having only access to emergency and clinic-type care. So, you know, there's just a lot of headwinds and a lot of things that the state will have to be grappling with for the foreseeable future, and that worries me for things like infrastructure, and especially our flood infrastructure here in the Central Valley that historically has been funded significantly by the general fund and by GO bonds. You know, kind of aligning that with my earlier comments about FEMA, but also just, you know, there are a lot of changes. Some of them have been slowed down in the courts, and from my perspective, that's a good thing. But any kind of changes to pull back the federal government's involvement in funding infrastructure in our Central Valley will also have even more significant impact on our ability to maintain the infrastructure we have and improve it, which is what we're all here to do. So I just wanted to share all of that today to ground us and where the money comes from, and yeah, just a lot to be concerned about and be vigilant about making sure people understand.
Thank you for that. It certainly is in the report that our executive officer has given us, but to put that into the transcript is well, it's just hard to understand what's going on. It's an unraveling of the historical partnership between the federal government and the states for needs of our population and for dangers that occur. Any other comments from board members on the legislative update? Anyone in the audience want to bring that forward? I see no hands are standing up. No hands up. Okay, we'll go. Thank you. Thank you for always preparing that. Thank you for your comments. Yeah, very helpful. Okay, we're bypassing the core because they're not here, and we just put it on there because I guess we like them. Okay, thanks for that. Board items. We have 2 board items, very interesting board items, and they're informational. So the first one is regarding both rescinding and adopting a resolution regarding tribal consultation policies. And Jordan Robbins of our board staff is going to introduce this and the people who are going to be the presenters. So good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me all right?
No,
No. Okay.
I can just because you're not so far away, but can you lift the mic?
Yes.
Better.
Oh, I can hear myself now. Thank you.
Got it.
Okay. Good morning, President Dolan, Vice President Villines, and board members. My name is Jordan Robbins, and I am a senior environmental scientist with the board and the board's interim tribal liaison.
Got to lift the mic again.
Oh, okay. I'm taller than I think I am.
You have a gentle voice.
I'm here today to present on the proposed board actions regarding the California Natural Resources Agency's new tribal consultation policy. Next slide, please. For today's presentation, I'll be providing a background, and then we will also be having the California Natural Resources Agency Deputy Secretary of Tribal Affairs, Geneva E.B. Thompson, providing overviews of both the 2025 Tribal Consultation Policy and the draft Tribal Stewardship Policy. Then I'll provide a CEQA analysis and findings of the recommended board actions for today and pause for any questions at the end. Next slide, please. For some background, on November 20th, 2012, the California Natural Resources Agency adopted its first tribal consultation policy in compliance with Executive Order B-10-11. The Central Valley Flood Protection Board adopted the 2012 California Natural Resource Agency Tribal Consultation Policy on March 16th, 2016, in compliance with that executive order. The California Natural Resources Agency adopted a new tribal consultation policy on September 25th, 2025, which replaces the 2012 tribal consultation policy and applies to all CNRA departments, commissions, boards, and conservancies. In November of last year, the CNRA Tribal Affairs Deputy Director, Megan Fleer, presented the 2025 tribal consultation policy to board staff at the November all-staff meeting. It is my pleasure to introduce the California Natural Resources Agency Deputy Secretary for Tribal Affairs, Geneva E.B. Thompson, who will be presenting overviews of the draft Tribal Stewardship Policy and the 2025 Tribal Consultation Policy. Geneva.
Well,
Good
Watto, and thank
morning.
you so much, Jordan.
Good morning. And if you'd give your name so that you've said it for our record, I'd appreciate it.
Of course, and thank you so much, President Dolan and the members of the board for having me here today. My name is Geneva E.B. Thompson. I'm a citizen of the Cherokee Nation, she, her pronouns, and I serve as the Deputy Secretary for Tribal Affairs at the California Natural Resources Agency. And it's a true pleasure to be here today. And I first wanted to just thank the board for your amazing staff. I have had the pleasure of working with so many folks at the board, and a huge kudos and thank you to Jordan Robbins, who is an amazing representative of the board. She brings not only deep expertise and professionalism to the role, but empathy that I think is so critical as we think about the implementation of our tribal affairs policies across the agency. So just, Watto, and thank you so much for the pleasure of allowing me to work so closely with Jordan and your team. So I'm also just very excited to be here today to share about 2 policies that we're working on at the California Natural Resources Agency. As Jordan introduced, we have the draft tribal stewardship policy, which we will be adopting February-ish, with a strong emphasis on the ish, but we're very excited about the tribal stewardship policy as it's looking at how do we advance durable and meaningful tribal stewardship across at least 7.5 million acres of lands and coastal waters across the state of California. And then the second policy that I'm very excited to have a quick presentation with you all on is our 2025 Tribal Consultation Policy, which I know that the board is considering here today. So again, thank you for the opportunity to be here. And so The first, I thought I would get into the draft tribal stewardship policy and toolkit. Again, this is our new policy that we hope to adopt here soon. And do I have the clicker or is somebody else changing the slides? Oh, awesome. Okay, well then next slide, thank you. And so as a quick timeline, we have been in consultation and public comment and working closely with your team as well as the other 27 departments, conservancies, and commissions underneath the California Natural Resources Agency for a bit. Here is the timeline of the work that we've been putting together, or we've been navigating in the development of the tribal stewardship policy. And really a lot of this work actually started out in our consultations on the Pathways to 30 by 30 strategy. And so that strategy is to conserve 30% of California's lands and coastal waters by 2030. And a core component of that 30 by 30 strategy is closely partnering with tribes to ensure that we are working together to protect these important lands and waters that we all deeply care about. And in those consultations, it became very apparent that we needed to reflect on the historical wrongs that the state of California has committed against California Native American tribes, and then really put pen to paper on some policies to address those wrongs in the spirit of truth and healing. And so a lot of conversations happened very early on, and then we were like, we really need to institutionalize this work and clear policy that our teams can implement and be successful in strengthening partnerships with tribes. And so we really kicked that off in 2024 with early tribal consultation, roundtables, working closely with tribal leaders on what is working and what can be improved upon. Our first draft came out in June 2025. And during this time, we conducted 12 tribal roundtables and consultations. We had 3 public meetings for public comment, and overall heard from 51 different California Native American tribes, 4 tribally led organizations, and 175 non-tribal entities. And for the most part, people are really excited about this work and provided a lot of suggestions for improvement in our next draft. And so our revised draft was released in November 2025. We've been engaging in tribal consultations on that revised draft and hope to finalize it here in the new year. So if we could do the next slide, please. So typically this presentation could be an hour-long presentation, so I've condensed it way down, knowing that you all have a full agenda, but wanted to highlight some of the key kind of components of the policy so you all can kind of see where we're going with this. And overall, the introduction of this policy is acknowledging tribal sovereignty and also acknowledging the fact that tribes have been the original stewards of the lands and what we now know as California since time immemorial. And that stewardship in of itself is a deep place-based expertise that is so critical for all of us in thinking about how do we care and steward for the lands and waters across the state of California. And that through the series of historical wrongs that the state, the federal government, other waves of colonization that the state has seen has disrupted that tribal expertise, that traditional ecological knowledge from the management and care of our lands and waters. And so we need to get back to that deep place-based expertise if we're going to grapple with the present day challenges that the board and so many of us are grappling with here today. And so that's what we open up this policy with, is really kind of grounding it in that tribal expertise. We could do the next slide, please. And then the next kind of part is where we articulate the challenge that we're all facing. And this one was a hard one to do because there are so many moments in our history that we have not been kind to tribes. We as in the global state, right? And that there are many historical wrongs that we have to really better understand and grapple with. But what we decided to do here with this policy is really just focus on the first 3 years of the state of California. And in those first 3 years, think through what the displacement of tribes from their ancestral territories, the disruption of traditional ecological knowledge, and the broken promises of 17 treaties that the federal government negotiated with tribes across the state. In these 18 treaties, the federal government promised tribes to protect and preserve for permanent homelands over 7.5 million acres of land that would have been permanent homelands for tribes in the state. And through a secret session and on the lobbying of the California legislature, the U.S. Senate refused to ratify those 18 treaties, therefore breaking the promise that the federal government had with the tribes and therefore not protecting those 7.5 million acres of land. And so that's what this policy is really focusing in on, is that historical moment, and then working to provide a solution moving forward. And I wasn't quite sure if there's a question, Vice Chair, or Vice President, excuse me. Yes.
I didn't mean to throw you off.
No,
but
no worries.
I wasn't even sure who to ask up. So the 7.5 you mentioned earlier, million, that comes from these actual documents.
Yes, so that 7.5 comes from these treaties that were never ratified by the U.S. Senate. And so what we're trying to do is have a tangible historical moment that has a rippling effect of harm that tribes are still facing today and provide tangible solutions to that particular harm. Yeah, of course. And so then with the next slide, you will see how we are working to address this, right? And the opportunity that we have before us is to, again, acknowledge those wrongs and then put tangible solutions towards healing. And in this policy, we're identifying opportunities and working closely with agency and our 27 departments, conservancies, and commissions, while also inviting all other non-tribal entities within the state to help us reach a goal of meaningful and durable tribal stewardship over at least 7.5 million acres of land and coastal water in the state of California. We're going with that big tent approach, right? Of it takes all of us to really grapple with these wrongs and move forward in that spirit of truth and healing. And then in this policy, we work to identify a clear definition of what tribal stewardship is. Because if we don't have clear definitions, if we don't have clear pathways, it's really hard to implement it. And so tribal stewardship under this policy is defined as a meaningful and durable tribal access or collaboration agreement. These could be MOUs, contracts, joint powers authorities, there's a wide variety in there, or fee title transfer from a non-tribal entity to a tribe of ancestral land return. And so what we are looking for here is how do we build these intergovernmental partnerships with tribes to advance this tribal stewardship through these agreements, and if it's possible, even return land back to tribal stewardship, knowing that's going to be as close as we can get to those unratified 18 treaties, as well as knowing that tribes in the ownership space of lands can ensure tribal expertise and tribal stewardship are applied to those lands. So that's what we're doing here in this policy. So the next kind of piece of this policy is that we're also going to have a toolkit. And this toolkit is a website, an evergreen website, where we're going to provide resources and materials for everyone who is wanting to lean in and help us reach this goal. There'll be webinar recordings, examples, templates, bibliographies, educational materials, because we know that this work is hard. And we know that there is a lot of capacity building that needs to be done at the tribal side as well as the non-tribal side to help us reach this goal. And so we've already have a lot of webinar recordings posted on our website. We have a book club about the native history of California, and so many other resources that are coming online to help support this work. So if we can do the next slide, please. And so this is just a visual of what this toolkit looks like, and then a list of the topics that we have already identified to include in that toolkit. Yes, board member.
No, I was just wanting to go back to, because this is the first time I've seen the 7.5 million acre goal. Mm-hmm. And so that's almost like all of, like I mean, that's almost all of the current state managed land. Like my quick internet search, 10 million acres
yes.
is what the state owns. So how are you guys visioning that? I mean, I'm just trying to.
No, it's a great question that we get all the time, right?
Yeah.
And it's very apparent that the state of California in of itself can't do this alone, right? And so we're going to need partnerships with the federal government, who's one of the biggest landowners within the state of California. We're going to need partnerships with nonprofit organizations and land trusts and cities and counties to help us reach this goal. And so it really is going to be an all-hands-on-deck moment to help us reach meaningful and durable tribal stewardship over this amount of acreage. And so you're spot on. The state of California doesn't own 7.5 million acres of land. And so we really are inviting many folks to help us reach this goal. Yes, Vice President.
Excuse me.
Hey, no worries.
Some of this has already started, right? It's like I've seen at least 2 or 3 of these have been written about in the media, right? One back by me in Fresno up in the mountains, like a significant land distribution. So that's already, but I think, is that all just within the last year, or has that been happening more than that?
Yeah, we have been working really hard in this space. Under Governor Newsom's Executive Order N1519, which is the official apology from the state of California to tribes, really directed all of us to identify ways to partner with tribes. And at the California Natural Resources Agency, being the Natural Resources Agency, right, that's very much a space of ensuring that we are partnering with tribes in the care of our natural resources and lands, and through that 30 by 30 initiative, returning lands back to tribal ownership. And so we've actually had a lot of great opportunities to partner with tribes in that space already. And so we had the first ever $100 million grant program, the Tribal Nature-Based Solutions Grant Program, that is focused on ancestral land return for tribal nature-based solution projects. And so I believe, Vice President, the one that you're mentioning is the return of a little over 17,000 acres of land to the Tule River tribe. And that was funded as part of the Tribal Nature-Based Solutions Grant Program coming out of agency. But many other departments under agency have also thought through their grant programs, their partnership programs in advancing tribal access, co-management, and land return. And so it's not just at agency, but we're seeing it kind of a ripple effect across there. Yeah.
Question. So the 7.5 million acre goal, is that about ownership or stewardship? Because those things seem different to me.
Yeah. So tribal stewardship is kind of the big overarching term, and then it's broken down into 3 separate categories. Okay. So meaningful and durable tribal access, meaningful and durable tribal collaboration, and then ancestral land return. Okay. And so, for example, the joint powers agreement that State Parks has with the Yurok tribe for the management of Stone Lagoon Visitor Center, that in of itself is counted as a tribal stewardship project. Even though those lands still are State Parks lands, they are actively partnering very closely with the Yurok tribe in the management of those lands.
Yeah, and I know that the federal government returned some land to the Karuk tribe.
Yes.
Maybe 2 years ago. Yeah. So as well.
Yeah. And so we're very much seeing this as a all hands-on kind of project. Okay, so that's my quick presentation on the tribal stewardship policy. Again, this can be a 2-hour meeting if you all would like it to be. But I'm very excited also to share a little bit about the 2025 tribal consultation policy as well. And so the California Natural Resources Agency's Tribal Consultation Policy and Best Practices document is a tool for state employees to use in implementing the directive of early, often, and meaningful tribal consultation. So the policy in of itself is the meat and potatoes, I guess, of the work. And then the best practices document is really to provide training resources and pathways for state employees to implement the policy. And the goal that we have for this best practices document is somebody who's never done this work before can pick it up and have a success rate of 75% of implementation of the policy. We know that some of it is just you gotta do the work and you build up that expertise by doing it. But we also know that this is newer for the state of California and that our teams need the resources and support for implementation. And so that's the goal of the best practices document. So we can do the next slide, please. So overall, the policy objective is consistency institutionalizing the core concepts of early, often, and meaningful tribal consultations, building in interagency collaboration. I know that you all partner very closely with the Department of Water Resources, and there are times and opportunities where you can have interagency collaboration to reduce the burden and work across the agency, not even in the tribal affairs space, but in many different spaces that you all are covering. So really kind of thinking through what does interagency collaboration look like. And then a clear identification of authority and personnel. And we wanted to make sure that folks are tracking and are clear on who your delegated tribal liaisons are and who is leading the implementation of the policy. So we can do the next slide. So what is consultation? Government Code Section 65352.4 provides a great definition for us to operate under. And it's a tribal consultation means the meaningful and timely process of seeking, discussing, and considering carefully the views of others in a manner that is cognizant of all parties' cultural values and, where feasible, seeking agreement. So this policy is based around this definition and seeing how we're going to actualize that and implement that early, often, and meaningful consultation. So we can do the next slide, please. And so what we tried to do here is provide a visual, because early, often, and meaningful in of itself could just be a bunch of words that don't really mean anything, or it could be something that really helps sets the tone and manner that our departments are pursuing and implementing this policy. And really the goal is this policy and the best practices documents to provide clarification and support for things that we're already doing, right? And so early, often, and meaningful consultation is providing a forum for sharing ideas and concerns. It's an ongoing reciprocal communication, really focused around relationship building. So it's not a, I sent my letter, one and done moment. It is a, let's have our governments come together and collaboratively problem solve shared issues that governments have. It's also seeking out and understanding tribes' ideas, concerns, thoughts, advice, recommendations. We know tribes have deep place-based expertise that the state of California very much could benefit from in thinking through how we are collaboratively managing our resources. It's being clear about departments' decisions, processes, timings, and limitations. Sometimes, as in any government, right? Folks aren't aware of the nitty-gritty processes that we all have to follow. And so consultation in of itself is a way of sharing the different touch points that each government has to navigate. And then it's recording input and doing something with it, right? What we hear from tribes is a deep frustration of we talked with a department and the information and expertise we shared never made it into a document, was never acknowledged, right? And so what we're trying to do here is provide resources and support for your team to know how to respectfully record that information and ensure that tribes are seeing themselves reflected in the work that you all are leading.
I think that that word respect and respectfully is very important. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that is something that tribes are very much looking for. So if we could do the next slide, please. So the consultation objectives is really to provide opportunities to express tribal priorities, views, and concerns for CNRA staff to develop clear understanding of tribal perspectives, needs, and concerns. It's also an opportunity to share pertinent materials, right? Asking a government to review a complex project, they're going to need that information. They're going to need clarity on where you are in your decision-making process and location and time. And sharing that pertinent information is going to just lead to stronger partnerships and stronger collaborative problem solving. Consultations also have clear timelines and also support tribal timelines and needs. Each tribe in of itself is a government. They have their own bureaucracy they have to navigate. They have their own boards, right, that have to consider and approve positions and outcomes, right? And so being aware of how our partnering governments operate internally in and of itself allows us to be a more respectful partner in the tribal affairs space. And then it's also striving for that, again, that collaborative problem solving and integrating tribal priorities into the decision making throughout our processes. So we can do the next slide, please. And so that is my quick presentation on the tribal consultation policy. I'm very excited to answer any questions you all might have. I also know that Jordan's been tracking this very closely as well, and I'm sure could provide insight to the board as well. So Wado, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Just a short one for me. What's the pronunciation of that first word?
Oh, Wado.
Oh, okay.
It's thank you in Cherokee.
Yeah, I knew that, but I didn't know how actually to say it. So, Member Johnson, go.
Thank you. Back to the stewardship policy
Okay.
briefly. Tell us again when you think it'll be final?
I hate to put an exact time on it just because
When do you
it's
hope it'll
going
be
through its
final?
review process, but I'm hoping sometime in February.
Okay.
February-ish, maybe early March, but
Okay.
yeah.
And how can we help?
I think what would be very helpful with that stewardship policy is to do a review of the board's kind of authority and where there are opportunities to partner with tribes in that access, in that collaboration, which includes co-management, or even in the ancestral land return space. And so sometimes it's looking at land holdings that the board has. Other times it might be looking at your regulatory authority and seeing where there's opportunities to ensure that tribes are in that shared management kind of space. So it's a little bit of an analysis there, but once you get the
I like
hang of
that,
it,
though. And I see Jordan wanting to speak.
Okay.
Maybe
Because we're,
do that first and tell us what you're
Yeah.
planning.
There
and
we
then
go.
we are doing, yeah,
See
we
if
are
I have
doing
a-
it.
See if I have
It's
a
a,
different suggestion.
There you go. So I should have deferred to you
Oh,
on
no,
that.
no. Thank you so much, Geneva. Thank you so much for your time with the presentation. And for your question, Brian Johnson. Yeah, we have been evaluating with this draft tribal stewardship policy what the board's authority is, exactly what Geneva was saying, is, evaluating the tribal access co-management and the SSJDD property as well. We have been working collaboratively with tribes who have approached us with some requests, and I know that my manager, Jamie Silva, he oversees the land management branch and is looking forward to hiring some new staff there that can help with these efforts as well. Andrea, is there anything else you'd like to add?
my hearing is trying to keep up with the speed of your words.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
No, I don't have anything to add. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you, Andrea.
Was that a comment, Madam Buckley? Nope? Okay, back to Member Johnson then.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'd be shocked. I mean, there's a 100% chance there will be opportunities for access and co-management, and there may be more than that. And so what I would request, Chris, is set a time for a briefing back on what you have. And I know it'll take a little bit of time to develop the real plan after you spot the opportunities. And you probably want to do it after it's formally adopted anyway. And if there's an action for us to take by amending our existing policies or giving you go ahead to do things, let us know.
Thank you, Board Member Johnson.
Thank you for that. And board members all agree, is that right? That we have some input on a regular basis. We have that for so many other things we do, and it's very important to add this. Are you objecting?
No.
Okay.
What would I have to?
Member Valines, no, I'm kidding. Member Valines, you've been waving your hand at me. Go.
I wanted to just give, well, Jordan, you're standing up there, so you get the credit, but I know a lot of people have worked on it, and you too. It's been noticeable from a staff perspective, pushing up over the last couple of years, how much more that's been really engaging in what we've been doing and how it's a part of our reports, and it's just been great. So I appreciate it, and then seeing some of this that we're already doing is excellent, so we look forward to being helpful to you as we push this policy out. But everyone's worked on it, and the whole, all of us should just be really proud of that, because it has become, and I know there's a couple of projects that are going through that right now that we've been watching. We're going to go through our consultation, and that's just part of the process. So credit, want to make sure I give it and announce it to everybody that's watching.
Thank you, Vice President.
Yeah, and I do know if Board Member Grego were here, she would very eloquently, more than I'm going to at this point, describe how the various projects within her, where she lives, Yuba and Sutter, that's been going on years ago when there formed the Three Rivers Levee Improvement District. So it's very respectful there, and I believe that the various tribes would agree with her saying that as well. Anyone else? Good to see you. Is that a hands up?
My sign, yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, I've got the real sign now. Thank you.
I feel like that's what the legislators do. I was copying Mr. Valines and his ex-colleagues. No, thank you for all of this. I've been following it. I actually tuned into your webinar that you had about a month ago, and my wheels, I'm oriented towards how are we going to do this, And so, I think that we do need to acknowledge, for example, on land stewardship, we have little to zero money to manage the lands that we have today. And so trying to think about, I love the idea of bringing in partners, and maybe even partners have resources to do some different things. But I think there's just a real lack of resources on the state side right now to really even, we heard last meeting a presentation about all of the unhoused debris related on our properties, and that worries me that we're not really dealing with that. So I just wonder how we will really have meaningful partnerships without the state government being able to bring something to the table. Because right now we're woefully underfunded related to land management. It's a fraction of a couple people's responsibilities, so it's not something we're spending a lot of money on right now. The other issue that I'm really interested is just how this is going to work in practice. A lot of the projects that come before us are in some cases many decades in development. A lot of hard decisions when you're talking about infrastructure, a big infrastructure, landscape size infrastructure. I'm just trying to think should we be doing more workshops with the people who are developing the projects? Because that's not always us, the government. A lot of them are being developed by local governments, local maintaining agencies, et cetera. I'm just trying to think practically how we can do that, because I don't think we're the only ones. We can't just do it. And when things come to us, is this consultation, is this part of your CEQA checklist now? I guess I'm trying to understand that and how it's going to work. That's all.
Thank you, Board Member Bosler. Jordan Robbins, Board Staff. Yes, it's a good question, especially with larger projects that come to the Board for a permit. There is CEQA consultation that the project proponents or other CEQA lead agencies may already do. And if those large projects or even the small projects have federal jurisdiction through 408, there's also the Section 106 consultation process where the Army Corps staff, Drew and David, wonderful men that I get to work with on that side, have really improved the tribal consultation process there. So we are able, in those reports, to consult with tribes. I think this past year, 2025, I was able to facilitate 55 of those requests for the federal projects alone. So we do rely on our partnerships as well for projects such as DWR, really wonderful partnerships there with the operations and maintenance as well. So with the meaningful, there's also the accountability too, is improving where we can, also hearing their requests, seeing what jurisdiction we have, explain our limitations, and also just, honestly see where we can facilitate those as well and improve in the future.
Be aware that you have 7 board members that are willing to provide assistance whenever it's requested or necessary. You want to be helpful. It's a big thing. And Member Bosler is exactly right. Having the ability and the funding to really do this. You do an amazing job being on yourself, Jordan, so thank you. It'd be good with some more. It's like the former Governor Brown used to say, big state, big issues. Do that. Okay, board members? just want to tell you, we had a prior board member, Basler, that when she did this, she said she was done. Well, now I know when you do that, you want to talk. Got it. I'm trainable. Okay, any other questions, board members? Any more input? Any wrap-up?
I would love to say thank you so much for the compliments and kind words. I don't feel alone in this. Thank you so much for the experience. I always get teary-eyed. The experience, the knowledge, the guidance, and the leadership that you provide, Geneva, for the CNRA Tribal Affairs. You provide wonderful working groups to where we can, CNRA agencies are able to discuss ways that we can improve our processes together. So thank you so much. Thank you so much to the board and also to my management. Andrea and Jamie, I don't feel alone in this process, so thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for being here and bringing that together. I don't think there's any more questions from the board, but I want to know if anyone in the audience wants to give input or ask questions on this item that's before us. Mr. Harvey, you put your hand up, but I think you just are itching, right? Okay. No hands up, and I don't see any hands up online. So we'd be ready to take action on this.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Geneva, today for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Are you ready for a motion?
Yes.
I have a couple more slides to go through.
You have a wrap-up.
I do have a couple more slides. Thank you so much. Next
Ms.
slide,
Robbins,
please.
You're there. Okay. Oh,
thank you.
We have this right here.
So today's proposed actions include rescinding the board's 2016 adoption of the 2012 California Natural Resources Agency Tribal Consultation Policy and adopting the 2025 Tribal Consultation Policy. Board staff have determined that these actions are not a project for the purposes of the California Environmental Quality Act. Next slide. Therefore, today's board recommended actions are to adopt Resolution 2026-01, which is to rescind the board's adoption of the 2012 California Natural Resources Agency Tribal Consultation Policy, adopt the 2025 California Natural Resources Agency Tribal Consultation Policy, direct the executive officer, the board's tribal liaison, and board staff to consult with California Native American tribes consistent with this policy, and the executive officer to take the necessary actions to post the 2025 CNRA Tribal Consultation Policy on the board's website. Next slide, please. With that, I'll pause for any questions on any of my slides.
No, we already had that.
Okay, thank you.
Not that our board members are shy about asking questions if it's needed. Okay. All right. So we are asked to adopt the policy. I brought it. I do things in paper, and because I don't like reading on screens, I like reading with paper. So it's a hefty document. And the resolution takes other actions. It rescinds the prior and adopts the current. And we also will be directing our executive officer to consult and to take necessary actions to implement this. So is there a motion to adopt the actions requested? Member Johnson.
I'll do it.
What that was? That's what
I
that
move, sure.
Okay.
I move that we adopt Resolution 2026-01.
All right, there's a motion and a second, and I know that said in the attachments as well.
I thought the motion adopted, the resolution adopted the attachments.
That's the second line here, but that's all right. It does adopt it. Okay. We have a motion before us to take the actions that are requested of us for this item. So please call the roll.
Member Griego is absent. Member Andrews?
Aye.
Member Bosler?
Aye.
Member Countryman?
Okay.
Aye.
Secretary Johnson?
Aye.
Vice President Valines?
Aye.
President Dolan?
Aye. We heard you, Member Johnson. Sorry, Member Countryman. All right, the motion passes. 6-0. 6 ayes or yeses, and 1 was absent today, but would have voted yes. I know that. Okay, thank you very much. Can we just take a 5-minute break so I can sort my paper? Yeah. 5 minutes. The board meeting reconvenes. Welcome back. We are at item 9B. Is Water Education Foundation's 2025 Water Leaders, who I just have seen and just talked to briefly, welcome, are going to present water rights policy information. And Jamie Silva is going to introduce this item. You don't see him, but you're going to hear him because he's online.
Good morning, President Dolan, Vice President Lyons, and members of the board. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, and I could tell by your voice that you're actually not feeling well, so I'm glad that you're doing this and that you're not giving your disease to us.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm here to introduce item 9B. So it's the Water Education Foundation's 2025 Water Leaders Program. And so this program convenes water professionals on an annual basis, and they focus on a centralized policy paper. And last year is centering around how to modernize water rights for the 21st century challenges. So today we have Chelsea Spire, Will Anderson, and Jason Weiner to go over their policy paper and proposed recommendations. And I'll hand it off to the presenters.
Thank you very much for that introduction. And thank you very much, President Dolan and the board, for inviting us to share today. We very much appreciate the opportunity to share the work that we've done together over the past year.
Well, you're welcome, and right back at you.
Thanks.
So,
if you could please go to the next slide.
if you would give your name.
Oh, yes. So my name is Will Anderson. I am a project geologist at Ludorf and Scalmanini, and I am a member of the 2025 Water Education Foundation Water Leaders Program. So, well, I guess alumni now that we're in 2026. Okay. First slide here is a photo of our Water Leaders cohort. This is about 1 year ago when the first day that we all met each other. As was already stated, the Water Leaders Program brings together about 20 early to mid-career professionals from across the state with different backgrounds. We spend a year together attending workshops, tours, and meeting with mentors. And then finally, we work together on policy recommendations on an assigned issue in California water. And so our topic was modernizing water rights for 21st century challenges. Next slide, please. So as we know, California has a dual water rights system with riparian and prior appropriation doctrines often being in conflict with one another. So
Not
as part
really.
of the program,
Not really.
during the program, we learned from our mentors and tours the intricacies of California's dual water rights system and how the system currently works to meet ongoing challenges. Next slide, please. So our approach through the year, as I said, was to speak with mentors in various fields in California water from throughout the state to get their input on how the water rights system works and how it can be improved. We attended foundation tours that travel throughout the state looking at California's physical water infrastructure that helps to meet challenges and demands. And then something very important to note is that our policy recommendations focus on modernization, not reform. So not changing the system of water rights that exists in California, but making incremental changes that we think have the best chance of affecting positive change. And some of the challenges that we're looking to address are listed on this slide. Climate, physical changes within California with population growth and industrial growth, changing technology allows for better records keeping and data collection, modern hydrology recognizing interconnection between surface and groundwater, and then the evolving outlook of society and how we value equity, tribal sovereignty, and environmental stewardship compared to when our rights systems were developed in the 1850s. Next slide, please. So our findings, our research and our discussions with our mentors identified some positive efforts already underway. So SB 88 introduced improved water measurement and reporting, and then also the Upward Project, which consists of digitization of existing California water rights records, and then also the new Cal Water's water rights system. We were actually able to tour the facility where all of the digitization was going on and actually see firsthand that very involved and lengthy process that's ongoing. So finally, we identified a few areas for improvement after our research. So one of these is flexibility in the water rights system, real-time data collection and actioning that real-time data collection, environmental prioritization, and then finally, local collaboration and working together to collaboratively solve issues when they arise. Next slide, please. And so from those, we came up with 3 major recommendations that have some subsidiary recommendations within them. The first recommendation is to strengthen institutional and regulatory flexibility to take advantage of times of plenty in order to be prepared for times of drought. Recommendation 2, enhancing local collaboration for surface water management. So taking the ideas of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act with local groundwater sustainability agencies and applying that thinking to surface water management. And then finally, recommendation 3, improving certainty in groundwater management, specifically as it relates to basins where adjudications occur or have the potential to occur. And so my fellow cohort members will talk in more detail about these recommendations. So with that, I will turn it over to Jason.
Thanks, Will. My name is Jason Wiener. I'm a senior hydrologist and geomorphologist at Environmental Science and Associates here in Sacramento. So I'm going to cover recommendation 1, which involves strengthening institutional and regulatory flexibility. Kind of before I dive in, I'm going to just provide a little color first. So here in California, across our major reservoirs, there's an estimate that we can store approximately 50 million acre-feet of water. That's what the estimate is. I'll ask the board if anyone has an estimate of what the available storage in our groundwater aquifers are. Any idea how much available storage is there? 10 times? A lot more. I heard 10 times more.
We got 10 times. I didn't realize that we had a test here.
Yeah. Recent estimate by DWR puts it at between 850 million and 1.3 billion, so about 16 times more. Now, there's a lot of caveats with that, recoverability, ability to get it in the ground, but it just kind of provides some context on, the opportunity here. And in the managed aquifer recharge, groundwater recharge space, a lot of us talk about this as our moonshot here in California for meeting our water supply needs in the future with increasing demand and increasing, climate uncertainty. If you look at the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act and you go onto DWR's website, there's 120 groundwater sustainability plans. Across those plans, there are 1,500 roughly project and management actions. Those are actions that were identified in those plans to meet groundwater sustainability. If you slice and dice it, 583 of those roughly 1,500 involve some management action of supply increase or recharge. So that just really speaks to the focus on this topic. So several of the items here will focus on groundwater recharge as well as water transfers, as these are really our main tools for kind of providing flexibility during floods and droughts. So under this recommendation, we had identified 3 subtopics. I'll step through them in kind, but the first is with regards to recharge and water transfers, improving existing streamlining programs, and potentially developing some programmatic CNRA level coverage to just operationalize these projects, allow them to be implemented in a more streamlined and steadfast manner. The second topic has to do with how we quantify water available for recharge and updating some existing guidance based on best available science and some lessons learned as these programs have come out over the last decade. And the last one has to do with the no injury rule and kind of modernizing it for some practicality reasons. So, slide please. So our first sub-recommendation is what we refer to as cutting the blue tape. This is somewhat modeled off of recent efforts called cutting the green tape that the board and CDFW put out, which were focused on streamlining the approval process for ecological restoration projects. We believe that there's opportunity here to, again, focusing on temporary permits for groundwater recharge or water transfers, expanding CEQA coverage, either through statutory exemptions for low-impact projects or potentially issuing a statewide programmatic environmental document that, again, just covers these kind of actions for similarly situated projects that generally have low impacts to just help navigate them through the regulatory process, make it less onerous for the local entities. There's a lot of confusion project by project, district by district on what permits are required. I work on these projects all the time. If you're in NorCal region, you might need a CEQA document. If you're in Southern California, you might not. And so to some degree, expanding this coverage and really developing a statewide programmatic EIR, I think, is very important to making this moonshot possible. Next slide, please. Shown on this graph here is a meta-analysis I completed. So the State Water Resources Control Board has a program where local entities can apply for a temporary permit for groundwater recharge. This has been happening since 2016. And what's shown here is looking at all of the permits that they've issued to date. I think there's roughly 75 of them. The black line is the cumulative water approved, authorized for diversion. And you can see it caps out in 2026 around 1.5 million acre feet. So this is paper water that they've authorized for diversion. The gray line at the bottom there, barely perceptible, is the water that's actually been diverted and put into the ground. And it amounts to about 60,000 acre feet. It's like 4%. There's a lot of reasons for that delta. Myself, some others, the board, we're investigating those, but clearly we're not hitting that moonshot, right? And so one of the primary areas that has been identified by myself and others has to do with how they determine water availability for these permits and the criteria under which diverters can divert that water. I applaud the state board for what they've done. You know, getting this up off the ground and getting it implemented is no small feat. I think they were well-intentioned, and we're, you know, really 2019 was kind of the birth of the modern era of this, and so we're only, what's that, 6 years out roughly, and we're still learning, but we need to adapt. What's happening, what the status quo is, isn't working. There's better available science for determining diversion criteria. I myself and others have done analysis that suggests that these criteria are protective of the environment and they allow more opportunity for diversion. And so I would really like the State Board and DWR to set clear and science-based rules, updating the existing guidance for checking water availability and updating those streamlined pathways for the temporary permit program. Next slide. With regard to those temporary permits, there are opportunities for getting 180-day permits, that's essentially 1 year of a project, or 5-year permits. Those permits don't automatically roll over year to year. Applicants have to resubmit an application. The application fees are costly. There's not certainty that you might actually recharge depending on what your diversion criteria are. The approval process can be lengthy. And so we recommend that the state board should improve and allow temporary permits to roll over from year to year, and where feasible, be streamlined into permanent water rights. Acquiring a permanent water right is no small process, but we think if there's proof in the pudding with a project, the board should develop a more streamlined process for just having those permits more automatically roll over, especially if there's no change to the requested conditions of the permit. And we also think that there needs to be some rethinking on the fee structure for this. Several of our mentors recommended that some of this could come from general fund money, but we think that this would allow more broad adaptation of this type of work through the locals that are performing it if it was less costly, because they have to fund the projects themselves and they have to pay for the permit review timeline. Next slide, please. The last sub-recommendation under strengthening institutional and regulatory flexibility has to do with the no injury rule. The no injury rule is a key legal safeguard in California. If you're getting a water right or a proposed water transfer, its intent is to make sure that there's not going to be harm done to other water rights holders or other legal water users. However, the burden often comes to the board. Under current statute, state board staff are required to resolve any protest to a permit without regard to whether it has a basis of scientific understanding, whether injury has actually been proven by the protester. And so we think there's opportunities to kind of modernize this to provide the board some better tools and make it a more robust process. Specifically, the board could have some criteria that the protester has, provided scientific information to suggest that injury is possible and dismiss protests that lack merit, or seem frivolous. Alternatively, the no injury rule could be modified to really put the burden of proof on the protester, to really, similarly show that they have been injured and provide cause and clear indications and backing for injury. I'm going to pass it off to Chelsea, but again, thank you to the board for the opportunity to present, and yeah, really looking forward to hearing questions.
Thank you. You put a lot of analysis and thought into that one. I should get your magic wand out and get it done.
Thanks, Jason. I'm Chelsea Spear with DWR's North Central Region Office out of West Sacramento, and I'm going to go over our second two recommendations. So recommendation 2 is really largely modeled after Sigma, but rather than focusing on management of groundwater, we're looking at management of surface water. So what this would involve is creating new locally led surface water stewardship agencies within surface water management areas. So if you're thinking of Sigma, this would be analogous to GSAs within a groundwater basin. And then those local agencies would be developing resilience plans. The new agencies would develop drought preparedness and climate resilience plans, which would include a comprehensive inventory of current and projected hydrology and supplies, conveyance infrastructure, and water rights. And most importantly, they would be developing collaborative frameworks of what they're going to do in times of drought and flood years. So they would come up with plans on, with projects and management actions like curtailments and strategic conservation that are agreed upon before we get into those crisis periods. And then they'd also have, for the flood years, plans in place for opportunistic water sharing for recharge. And then, of course, a key element to making this work would include improved real-time monitoring data and transparent reporting. Next slide, please. So one consistent theme that we heard across the board from our mentors is that the environmental flows in the water rights system really get left behind, and they end up being a low priority even with effort towards taking them into consideration. So to address this key issue, one part of recommendation 2 is to establish regional environmental water managers. So these groups would run environmental water budgets and align environmental flows with habitat restoration and climate-smart conservation goals. So you could kind of think of these groups as similar to a water master for the environment. And they would be required to either be embedded within the surface water agencies or collaborate with them. So they're written into those resilience plans. And then next slide, please. So you might be thinking, this sounds like a nice idea, but it sounds super expensive, and who would want to do it? So what would make a local agency want to participate? So similar to Sigma, we're proposing that it would have state oversight. DWR would be in charge of approving boundaries and the resilience plans that the locals come up with. And then State Water Resource Control Board would be the backstop with their curtailment authority in times of drought. So what the local agencies would gain from this is they'd have greater predictability in their water supply across different hydrologic years. They would receive protection from curtailments by the state board in times of drought, and they would benefit from streamlined permits for water trading and transfers in years that are both high and low water. And the environmental water budgets, when they're outlaid clearly and agreed upon by everyone, would improve the accountability and reduce regulatory uncertainty for all users, not just for the environmental groups. Next slide, please. And then moving on to recommendation 3, we're looking at improving certainty in groundwater management. Right now, as Will mentioned, we have 2 dueling systems. We have Sigma, which is fairly new, enacted in 2014. And then we have adjudications, which have been around for 100+ years. Under Sigma, GSAs can set pumping limits, but they can't change water rights. And this means that allocations set under Sigma can be challenged in court on the basis of senior rights holders, which starts a lengthy and expensive adjudication process. Courts don't necessarily have to use the goals or sustainable management criteria developed under Sigma if a Sigma basin goes into adjudication. So that can undermine the intent of Sigma as everybody's trying to come to voluntary cutbacks. So there's a very real concern here that senior water rights users or others that are unhappy with the direction of their groundwater basin could initiate adjudication as a delay tactic. Another really big water right issue related to groundwater is existing law is lacking in clear rules around storage credits for several different types of recharge projects. And you heard from Jason, approximately a third of the projects and management actions proposed under Sigma are related to water supply and recharge. So as a group or individual is making that infrastructure investment into recharge projects, they don't have the legal certainty of how much of that water they're going to get to pull out in future years. And then lastly, the high cost and timelines of adjudications are a huge burden on small pumpers, disadvantaged and low-income communities, and tribes. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to go into too many details of our proposed package to address this, but basically we're looking to address all those issues that I just mentioned. So just briefly, this would allow for a portion of a basin or an individual water right holder to have judicial review of proposed curtailments or other allocations, rather than that opening up a basin-wide adjudication. Several of the provisions would reduce duplicate analysis if a basin does go to adjudication, so courts would be required to use the data and findings and at least consider them that's been developed under SGMA rather than starting all that from scratch. And then we also propose a new statute with uniform accounting rules for groundwater storage credits to incentivize MAR and other recharge projects. Next slide. And then with that, I think we'll all be happy to answer any questions that you guys have. Thanks.
I have lots of questions, but I want to make a comment. I'm very happy that you have given this presentation. I'm very, that's cute. Can we do this? Just for the transcriber, the three of them hugged each other, so I'm trying to hug my board. I'm very happy that this is before us today, and just a couple of thoughts. We, as a board, as an entity, as an organization, has authority, has a duty, and has a willingness to participate in all this. We've been trying to break through, and we're making efforts. We have the authority, and we do designate and manage designated floodways, and we can create more. Every time I see the floods heading toward infrastructure, danger, homes, prisons, schools, just see we could do better for that. And you've talked about when there's abundance and when there's not. When there's abundance, we should be talking about a way to have it be durable and not intensive when it occurs. And we just had this. When we have horrible fires, everybody pays attention to the fires. The fires are out, and then we move to the next flood. The flood is out, and then we wait for the next disaster to occur. We're not very good at sustaining, looking through when it occurs and how you can repair to that. So I'd love to talk with, I know you're done, but you could still talk with me about how we can do that. I'm assuming that you've met Paul Goslin, who heads up SGMA. He used to work for Butte County. I was on the Butte County Board of Supervisors. I was part of the people who hired him. So he does, I can talk to him. But he's got a different job now, so doesn't have to do what I say. Everybody's trying. No, it's very complicated. Your recommendations are appropriate, they're modern, they're reasonable, but achieving them is certainly going to be a challenge. And I don't want to be feasible without saying wave your line. It's got to be a lot of intensive work on this. Yeah.
Yeah, as I was kind of sitting in the audience, I was sort of thinking about, we have our recommendations, and I loosely understand what the board does. I don't fully understand. I need to be more familiar with that. Sorry. But it struck me, I was like, what can the board do? That was the question that popped in my head. Like, okay, we're presenting our ideas to you. What can the board do? And I think the board can be Oh, a little closer, yeah. I think the board can be a champion and a supporter of projects. That's maybe the biggest view. DWR's watershed studies that recently came out are re-envisioning of how we can operate rim dams, have multi-benefit projects that increase, do ecological uplift, reduce flood risk reduction, and recharge our aquifers. There is strong push, my understanding, from all levels of government. Carla is pushing this hard at DWR to, get these out of the paper space, out of the conceptual space, and into reality. And that's going to be a challenge. We're going to have to reoperate our reservoirs. We're going to have to update the rule curves for those reservoirs to, incorporate forecast-informed reservoir operations. There's habitat restoration along the channels that is, going to provide ecological uplift and floodplain reconnection for, recharge. And then you know, it's a complex thing. And I think the board, you know, in your capacity that you can support that, that's a huge thing. And then, you know, also just looking more local, like levee setbacks, floodplain reconnection. Those are opportunities to provide recharge, multi-benefit, flood risk reduction, championing, supporting those projects. That's, I think, another thing the board can do. And then the last space that struck me has to do with Water Code 1242.1. So 1242.1. So this is essentially what came out of the governor's executive orders a number of years ago when Tulare Lake was in flood, and he essentially said, divert, you know, get farmers, get your pumps, local entities, get your pumps, just start getting that water out of the rivers and onto fields. And they recharged something like 400,000 acre feet of water during that period of time because, you know, it was incentivized. And the water code update came out of that to institutionalize it and bring it to the statewide level. And that program is really focused on recharging during floods that pose, you know, an immediate risk to health and human safety infrastructure. That program is just getting off the ground, in my opinion. The state board has a landing page for it. Local entities who divert under that water code section are required to report. I think there's 2 reportings to date, maybe more now that we had some, you know, decent rain earlier this year. But there's some challenges associated with that program. You have to know ahead of time, you know, floods are emergency scenarios. A lot of the local entities, they're not focused on getting a pump out to the river during a flood. They're focused on emergency response. So how do we get ahead of that? Well, you need good forecasting. And we have some decent forecasting tools in California. DWR just put out a dashboard for the Central Valley that is intended to provide some guidance and alerts of when locals can divert under 1242.1. But the forecasting is still only based on California Nevada River Forecast Center, so it's only a limited number of sites. There's technology out there that could expand that. I'm talking, yeah, Mike.
Jane, can I go?
Vice President Lyons.
Thank you. Just going back, I thought I turned it on. I need to get. You mentioned under the program that's just getting stood up that, you know, let's say it's coming and you do know and you have a pump, they have to report once or twice. What does that landowner have to report? Or did I mishear you?
The reporting under the flood diversions?
Yeah.
They report after the fact.
Like how much?
Essentially that they did it, what the conditions were under which they were diverting, and an estimate to the best of their ability of how much they got off the river.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not burdensome. That's what I was trying to find out.
No, it does not appear to be burdensome. Because I think they understand that this is a hazard scenario and like people need to react quickly and that it is a multi-benefit thing. And the intent was for it to not be burdensome. Yeah. But yeah, just, you know, speaking to that program, I don't fully understand how the board could engage and interact with that program, but there's definitely a there. You're involved in flood risk reduction, flood protection, setting and understanding when flooding is occurring, maybe forecasting, and also having local thresholds of when conditions are hazardous. And that's a key to that program. You need to know when floods are coming, and you need to still have a threshold that suggests that infrastructure, human health, or safety is in danger. That's the criteria for when you can divert under that program. I will talk forever, so please cut me off.
Some of those things that you suggested or listed there that would be important, they are being implemented, but it's not on a robust way because we all know their money's not pouring down on anybody at this point.
Yeah.
But there have been setback levies, there's been restoration projects, river level, and even broader than that, and it's certainly improved safety of lives and property as we are improving the flood system, and that's our job, make sure the flood system works to protect lives and property, and we also have added on to that to address environmental issues and needs. Since we destroyed an awful lot of things, we could see what we can bring back through this system. So yes, how how the state and federal agencies can all work when they all have their own things to do is the challenge. But I think we're making some effort. It's just not fast enough. It's challenging. Okay, board members. I see that. Member Bosler.
I'm just really excited to have you all here today. And I was at the Water Education Foundation day-long conference, and this is when I saw your project, and I was like, we need to have them come talk to us. So I am excited you're here. I like all of your recommendations. I think they're excellent. But one of the things that, since I've been here at the board, I've really thought about the unique nature of our jurisdiction is it's actually aligned around watersheds. And I love the surface water management local collaboration idea, because one of the things that worries me in our ability to adapt and change our system to optimize, improving the environment, but also like ensuring safety of communities, is really like how our governance is not set up for speed, right? Like a lot of our water districts, like we're not set up anywhere remotely around a watershed. They are like political in jurisdiction, and even our counties' lines are not, that. So like having this ability in this forum to be really focused on these two, critical watersheds in our state, I think is a really unique vantage point. And I think that we have an opportunity to provide leadership and really like getting people to get out of their individual governance boxes and into a much more like, how do we optimize these systems and how do we work with Mother Nature to optimize and get what we need done. And so I just really like so many of these recommendations. I also like how there's some specificity in some of them that are very, seem tangible. They seem like something that we can actually work towards. And so I'm wondering, do you have bill sponsors yet?
Not that I'm aware of, but Soren Nelson was on within our group, and he's at Aqua, so maybe he'll be able to help push some of that forward.
Well, we're going to get the transcript on this, and we're going to pay attention to it. And we may invite you back. We're not going to pay you, but you're going to have to come to our meetings. Okay, board. Any more board? Okay. Anyone in the audience? Nope. And I see no hands up either, so thank you so much. This is just a start. I really think this is just a start.
I just want to also send a shout out to the Water Education Foundation for this program, because the thing about water in California is there is a lot of complexity to it. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of intricate legal frameworks that have been built up for centuries, and it's not something that, it's important for there to be real analysis and independent thinking about how to improve it. And when I look around, there's not a lot of places that's happening. And I'm not saying that's negatively to our state agencies, but they have a lot of other mandates on their plate and a lot of things coming to them from the legislature. But this is really true analysis that has been broadly, you guys have gathered from a lot of different expert sources. And I just want to say that's really unique. And I hope that we can just continue to invest in this here at the, I guess I'm putting in a plug for charitable giving to the Water Education Foundation. But I mean, I just think it's unique. And I, for one, feel like we need a whole lot more analysis and critical thinking about the problems facing our state, not just in water, but in other places as well. So just really excited to see this work, and thank you for your time and attention and leadership. And I think it's obviously a wonderful growth opportunity for you all, but it's also really great for the rest of us as well.
And I think Jen's online watching, so she'll be here. Glad to hear that.
Yeah, I think I'll just end on behalf of all of us and the rest of the cohort who's not here, just like really thank you for the opportunity. We were all really excited when Jamie reached out, so it's been a pleasure. Thank you. And yeah, feel free to contact any of us with follow-ups or anything. We're all pretty findable online.
All right, we'll do. I think I can speak for the board that we think that you are water leaders. So you may help us move this forward so that we're not still operational of 1950 ideas.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
You want a break or you want to go right away to this big book? So do we. Yeah, I always like to get home at one point. We're at item number 10. This is an item brought to us by the Department of Water Resources. It's the 2025 review and inspection of local maintaining agencies, and Preston Shotbill of the Flood Board will introduce this item and the participants.
Good morning,
Still
President
good morning.
Dolan. It is. Good morning, President Dolan, members of the board. I'm Preston Shotbill, manager of the board's inspection section. I'm here to introduce DWR's flood project inspection and assessment section ahead of their presentation of the annual inspection and LMA report. I just wanted to say a few quick things about how we work with the flood project inspection and assessment group. We work in the following ways. First, while a large portion of their workload goes to producing this report you're about to hear about, and monitoring the state plan of flood control system for maintenance and encroachment issues, their staff assist the board in overseeing construction of permitted encroachments. Our group is small, three engineers, plus other board staff that can go out in the field as well. And we cover a lot of ground, but we're there to ensure that newly permitted projects are constructed in accordance with those permit conditions, as well as Title 23 standards and approved plans. And we could not cover all of that ground without DWR's help. Second, we coordinate on a regular basis regarding levee data and the databases that support that information. For instance, levee alignments that may have changed due to a project improvement, and our groups also coordinate to make sure we're getting that data to be reflected in all of our databases to support our teams making effective recommendations. Our inspectors also assist the DWR group as part of the Flood Operations Center flood rosters in response to state emergencies such as floods and fire response. And finally, our groups coordinate the ongoings in the field to make sure that both parties are aware of activities observed, such as potential enforcement issues. That happens multiple times a year, and we're coordinating consistently. So if you don't have any other questions for me at this time, I'll hand it over to Wade Wiley, the manager of the section. Thank you.
I think we can do that and have questions at the end.
All right.
Thanks,
Because
President.
I'm assuming what you're going to tell us will answer a lot of them.
Good morning, President Dolan, members of the board. My name is Wade Wiley. I am the manager of the Flood Project Inspection and Assessment section for the Department of Water Resources. Today,
Say that twice fast. Say that twice fast.
A lot of people have difficulty with that. I don't know why. Today, myself, Senior Engineer Zach Hohola, and Mike Tao will be presenting the results from our 2025 Inspection and Local Maintaining Agency report. Next slide, please. So I'll start with the background, our authority to do inspections, and what it is that we inspect. So under the authority of Water Code 8360, 8370, and 8371, we perform a verification inspection of the maintenance of the Sacramento River Flood Control Project levees, and that's performed by the levee maintaining agencies. And we report to the board and the Corps annually on the status of levee maintenance accomplished under the provisions of Title 33 Code of Federal Regulations. There's no specific water code that directs DWR to inspect on the San Joaquin flood control system, but we inspect that, and we've been doing that for a very long time. So these inspections determine if the levee maintaining agencies are performing their legal and statutory responsibilities under Water Code 12642 and 12657, and if they are meeting their legal obligations under assurance agreements with the state to operate and maintain their flood control projects. The Flood Project Inspection and Assessment section also performs other inspections based on a 2008 agreement with the Central Valley Flood Protection Board. And it provides an avenue for LMAs to comply with Water Code 9140 and 9141, which is the LMA reporting that Mike will be talking about later in the presentation. Next slide. So all that boils down to, we inspect and report on the state plan of flood control features. In a typical year, we inspect 1,550 or so miles of levees, and we do that twice, once in the spring and once in the fall. One time a year, we inspect 26 channels, 56 structures, 13 pumping plants. Every year, about 1,500 utility crossings, a variety of erosion sites. That number kind of varies year to year. And we do an aerial imagery inspection of 32 designated floodways, and we provide an avenue for the LMAs to do their annual LMA reporting. Next slide. So having provided that background, I'd like to now share what we'll be talking about in this year's presentation. Today, Zach Hohola will be providing an overview of the contents of the report. He will discuss the contents of the LMA summary profiles, review the encroachment section, and then he'll present the results of this year's inspection. At that point, he'll turn it over to Mike Tao, who will review this year's LMA reporting results and the results of the utility crossing inspection program. And after that, I'll come back up and wrap up the presentation with a discussion of some of the other things that we do for the board and our other programs. So with that, I'll turn it over to Zach Hohola.
All right, thank you, Wade. Can everybody hear me okay? All right, good morning.
Yes.
Oh, I'm trying. Good morning, President Dolan, members of the board. My name is Zach Hohola, and as I mentioned, I'm one of the new guys, so be gentle on me. I'm one of the former inspectors of this section, and now I am a supervisor of the Flood Projects Inspection Unit A, and I help to supervise the inspection work being done by DWR. Our other senior, Mike Engelman, is in the crowd today. He'll be supportive of me as I need it, because I can get all the help I can get sometimes. And he's also in the same role. He'll provide any necessary support. Today I'll be providing an overview of the contents of this report, and then I'll review the results of our inspections, which everybody's excited to hear about. The inspection report contains the maintenance inspection results for the levees, channels, structures, and designated floodways. In addition to that, it also has the results of DWR's San Joaquin River Erosion Survey, the LMA annual reporting results, and the results from the Utility Crossing Inspection Program. Some of the other programs included in this report are DWR's Flood System Repair Project, the U.S. Army Corps Sacramento Riverbank Erosion Survey, and the Corps PL 8499 Eligibility Program. That's always a hard one for me to say out 5 times fast. Together, the information provided by these programs helps the inspection unit determine the quality of the maintenance that the LMAs are providing. And the report concludes with the Flood Project Inspection Assessment Section activities and accomplishments from the reporting year, as well as the LMA summary profiles located in the appendices. All right, so looking at the report, the highlights of the inspection programs are summed up in the front of the report. But the core of the results are shown in the LMA summary profiles located in appendices A, B, and C. These summary profiles provide one location for each LMA to review all the data gathered from the many programs that contribute to the results of the inspection report. Next slide, please. The report format remains similar from year to year, but the summary profiles are updated with the new inspection data. The LMA's overall maintenance ratings are found in these summary profiles, and the results of the structures in channel inspections, as well as DWR and core erosion surveys. The combination of these results give us the ability to assess the levee threats and give recommendations on how the LMA can improve their maintenance. This section also includes the LMA reporting results, providing a summary of each LMA's 5-part reporting, and Mike Tao will cover that as mentioned in the later portion of this presentation. So before we move on to the results of the inspections, I want to highlight the encroachment section of the report. There are over 3,500 non-compliant encroachments identified in the levee inspections, and these are broken into 2 different types, either maintenance or enforcement issues. The maintenance issues, for the most part, are encroachments that can be managed by the LMA's maintenance programs, such as system pipes, downed trees, trash, and debris. Whereas the enforcement issues are encroachments that typically are privately owned structures, pipes, fences, pruning piles, or landscaping, but only the maintenance type issues are assessed as part of the overall rating. Next slide. So let's take a closer look at each type of encroachment. There are just over 600 maintenance issue encroachments identified in the report, as you can see on our nice chart here. And as you can see, there are 2/3 of the maintenance encroachments are pipes. The remaining third are for items that can normally be corrected through the LMA's routine maintenance program. All right, next slide, please. So now looking at the enforcement issue encroachments, there are approximately 2,900 enforcement encroachments found in the system, which is 2,300 more than the maintenance encroachments that were shown on the previous slide. Here we can see that 32% of enforcement encroachments are privately owned pipes, 19% are fences, and 16% are landscaping issues. And the remaining 33% are privately owned items, which include pruning piles, ditches, buildings, crops, and other items. Yep. Although the LMAs are the first line of defense for these issues, oftentimes they're unable to correct them without the assistance of the board's enforcement section. So we thank them for their assistance. All right, so that being said, here are the results for the 2025 inspection results. Here we have the overall ratings for different inspections of the flood protection system for 2025. This table has the results for the levees, channels, structures, and pumping plants within the state plan of flood control. And so this is kind of the overall kind of wrap up of all those results. We're going to dive into those right now. So looking at the levee inspection results, you can see this year's ratings side by side with the previous 4 years. And this year there was an improvement in the system. There were 37 minimally acceptable rated levees. Last year there were 43. The graph also shows that there were 32 levees receiving unacceptable ratings, and this is pretty normal, a normal range that we typically see in a year. It's interesting to note that 23 of those 32 levees have received an unacceptable rating for at least the last 5 years. The remaining 33 levees received an acceptable rating, and this increase was largely a result of better vegetation management, improvements to erosion, repair of LMA responsible pipes, and improved animal control. All right, so now let's look at the components of, that affected the LMA's ratings.
Can I?
So that's what we have in this bar chart here.
Before you move on, can I just?
Sure, go ahead.
So I think you gave an important piece of information. So 23 of the 32 have been in this orange bar for at least 5 years.
Yeah, it fluctuates up and down. Sometimes they improve their rating and they go up to acceptable or minimally acceptable.
But 23 of them, of the 32, have been unacceptable for 5 years.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, so moving on to this next slide. Inspection items affecting the ratings can be seen here. There are issues like pipes, crown road surface issues, erosion burrows from animal activity, trees, and vegetation. As in previous years, the most common maintenance deficiency has to do with vegetation management. And this year's results show that 14 of the 32 levee areas with unacceptable ratings could have received an acceptable rating had the LMA solely focused on performing vegetation management at a high level. So if they just focused on that, they could have got acceptable. All right, next slide, please. So moving on to the channel results, the 26 channels we report on are non-levied project channels specifically called out in the water code and the core O&M manuals. Our inspections evaluate the channels at specific locations where there are restrictions to the channel, mainly bridges or road crossings. Vegetation, debris, erosion, or other factors that impact the capacity of the channel are used in the rating analysis for each channel. And the main issue is, again, vegetation that affects their channel ratings, I should say. The 2025 channel inspection results stayed fairly consistent with the last several years, as you can see up here on the figure. All right, so next slide, please. We have the structures now, which are typically things like weirs, diversions, outfall, and drop structures. The structure maintenance ratings remains fairly similar again. There was some fluctuation between minimally acceptable and acceptable ratings due to debris, sedimentation, and vegetation management issues. One unacceptable structure remained the same as the past 3 years due to erosion around the head wall and deteriorating pipes. A second structure received an unacceptable rating this year due to heavy vegetation and sedimentation immediately downstream. All right, moving on to the pumping plants. We had 8 that were rated acceptable, 4 were rated minimally acceptable, and 1 was rated unacceptable. And this was our biggest change. This increase in minimally acceptable ratings can be attributed to those structures being temporarily inoperable, and they were undergoing heavy maintenance within the inspection window. However, after recently reaching out to these districts, we were able to confirm that all 4 of those pumping plants are now operational, so they've made an improvement. The same pumping plant has received an unacceptable rating over the last 4 years because of vandalism and theft.
Can you go back to the structures?
Sure.
Can you tell us what the structure is that's been unacceptable for the last 4 years?
Sure, that's the Butte Slough outfall structure.
A what?
Butte Slough outfall structure.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Who's responsible for that?
I don't remember off the top of my head who the maintenance agent. Oh, it is DWR. Sorry, I'm the new guy.
And I believe they are working on a remediation project. It just hasn't come.
Yeah, it's not been completed yet.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Okay. Let's see. I believe we're on the pumping plant, so now we're moving on to designated floodways. So our inspectors perform inspections of the 32 designated floodways within the Sacramento and San Joaquin drainage basins on behalf of the Central Valley Flood Protection Board. Inspectors use the latest aerial imagery to perform floodway inspections through Google Earth, and we identify encroachments that may impact the capacity of the floodways or require a board encroachment permit. Using the updated aerial imagery for 2025, we found 97 encroachments that were identified and added to the database. And this increase in the new encroachments was likely attributed to new and better quality imagery, so it's clearer to see on the floodway. And this brings the total number of encroachments identified in the designated floodways to 9,896. And so on the
Is there a particular characteristic of what end encroachment or type of encroachment that you always see?
So it's a perfect transition to our next slide because most of those structures or most of those encroachments listed are buildings. Those are structures. The remaining encroachments are mostly crops, utilities, and items like fences, equipment, and debris piles.
Yeah, there were a few decades there where the attention paid to designated floodways was was missing.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have shopping centers that are over designated floodways.
Gotcha. So yeah, the majority of those are buildings.
Yep.
And this, as I should mention, this pie chart shows the permitted versus unpermitted encroachments within the designated floodways. When we look closer, we can see that out of the 9,896 encroachments identified, 9,640 require a board permit, and only 10% of those have them. I'd like to point out that many of these encroachments may have existed before the adoption of the designated floodways, and it's really hard for us to know which of these encroachments existed before. So we're going through, slogging through, trying to nail all that out.
There are encroachments that were put in place before there was DWR.
Right.
There are things that happened there in the 1800s and early 1900s that we're still trying to deal with.
Right. All right, so with that brings an end to this portion of the presentation. Does anyone have any other questions for me at this time? If not, I pass it off to Mike Tout, and I apologize. I have to head out after here to catch a plane flight, so thanks for having us today, and I really appreciate meeting all of you. Yeah.
Thank you. It's great. I'm glad we were able to get this done while you could communicate with us. Thank you. Be safe.
All righty. Thank you, Zach. Have a safe trip.
Okay, still morning. Good morning.
Morning, President Dolan, members of the board. My name is Mike Tao, and I'm the manager for the Local Maintaining Agency Assessment Unit for DWR. I will provide a background, or I will provide an update of the LMA reporting program, starting with the background on the program, then cover the results from the 2025 submittals and discuss how the information was compiled and used. The LMA reporting program was established by Assembly Bill 156 in 2007 and is codified in Water Code sections 9140 and 9141. It requires annual reporting on operation and maintenance activities for project levies as well as for certain non-project levies. Water Code 9140 requires that LMAs report annually to DWR, and 9141 requires that DWR in turn report that information to the Central Valley Flood Protection Board. The intent is to obtain information beyond what is observed by DWR levee inspectors. We are looking for the LMA's perspective on their levee problems and the priorities for levee maintenance, in addition to information on costs. Here are the 5 parts in a concise manner that the LMAs are required to submit to DWR each year by September 30th. In Part 1, we ask for information relevant to levee condition or performance. Examples are vegetation issues, encroachments, sediment accumulation, and berm erosion. In Part 2, we ask for known levee integrity issues. Examples are seepage, boils, animal burrows, levee erosion, and cracks. In Part 3, we ask for a summary of maintenance activities performed in the previous fiscal year, along with costs. In Part 4, we ask for planned maintenance activities for the current fiscal year, along with the costs. And in Part 5, we ask for other relevant information. This year, 97% of the 102 geographical levied areas that are required to report submitted their reports. Every one of them provided a complete report that responded to all 5 parts of the reporting program. The remaining 3 areas simply did not submit a report. There's one area that consistently does not report because it does not have an LMA, and this is NA6, Eastern Honcut Creek. The other areas that do not report seem to fluctuate from one LMA to another each year. Overall, the number of compliant reports hover around the high 90% range. Next slide. For areas that did submit reports, Part 3 was used to summarize the maintenance activities performed during the previous fiscal year, along with the planned maintenance activities for this fiscal year. Please note that the chart shows the percentage of areas that indicated they performed or will perform these activities. This is not an indication of budget spent on these items. As in previous years, vegetation control remains the dominant activity reported by LMAs, followed by rodent control, levee repair, levee crown maintenance, and levee patrol. Because budgets vary from LMA to LMA and how much they spend on each activity varies year to year, it can be difficult to generalize the LMA spending. However, using data submitted in parts 3 and 4, we were able to calculate the average percent of budget that the LMAs are spending on each key activity. This chart shows the average percent of budget spent for fiscal years 2021 to 2025 and the planned budget for fiscal years 2026. For the year shown, the largest budget spent was on vegetation control, ranging between 32 to 39%. The second largest average percent of budget was spent on the other category, ranging between 24 to 33%. This category consists of miscellaneous costs not directly associated with maintenance activities such as administration, equipment, engineering, and insurance costs. All the remaining maintenance activities listed here appear to be receiving on average less than 12% of the LMA's budget over the last 4 years. Cost per levy mile and other budget information specific to each LMA is provided in the summary profiles in appendices A, B, and C of the annual report. Next slide. All right, so now I would like to provide an update on the Utility Crossing Inspection Program, or USIP for short. I will briefly discuss the background of this program, then explain the ratings that USIP applies to inspected pipes, and lastly, I will share the results from the 2025 inspection cycle. The USIP program was created to identify and inspect all utility crossings penetrating the state plan of flood control levees in both the Sacramento and San Joaquin River flood control projects. The first phase of this program was a desk study, which began in 2010. This phase identified and documented utility crossings within the state plan of flood control. The desk study gathered information from O&M manuals, as-built, levy logs, permits, and other records. The study concluded in 2012, and at that time, the database contained approximately 7,500 utility records. Of these records, about 34% were identified as drainage pipes, 31% as irrigation pipes, and the remaining 35% were other types of crossings such as electrical conduits, pressurized gas lines, drinking water lines, sewer lines, and communication conduits. After the desk study, USIP inspectors began the field verification and inspection phase. The inspection phase started in 2012 and took 4 years to complete, concluding in 2015. After completing the first round of inspections, USIP improved its data, researched additional crossings, and continued to perform inspections each year on 20% of all crossings within the state plan of flood control. When USIP is not performing inspections, a more detailed review of the inspection record is conducted. This includes adding a detailed description of the crossing and including all of its appurtenances, adding pipe installation dates, and referencing documents that acknowledge the pipe. Additionally, new records are created to account for pipes that have been replaced and new ones that have been installed. As a result, the total number of records in the database grows each year and currently stands at approximately 8,200 pipes, 8,200 records. Out of those records, some of them were pipes that have been removed, are considered outside the levee, or bored under the levee, but they are kept in the database for historic and tracking purposes. So USIP uses a slightly different rating system than the levee inspectors, but the levies are in alignment. The ratings are in alignment with each other. USIP's urgent rating coincides with the levee inspector's unacceptable rating, non-urgent with minimally acceptable, and no action needed with acceptable. Urgent pipes are those with severe pipe integrity issues, such as pipes with holes, missing or broken flap gates, or leaks causing erosion to the levee prism. Non-urgent ratings are for pipes with less severe issues, such as pipes with missing appurtenances or minor leaks. This rating also includes administrative issues, such as pipes with no proper authorization. And lastly, no action needed ratings are for pipes that do not have issues and have proper bore authorizations. In 2025, USIP inspected 1,420 pipes within the LMAs listed here. 8% of them were rated as urgent, 55% as non-urgent, and 37% as no action needed. And since 2012, USIP has inspected all known pipes within the system and has assigned them a rating. The pie chart here shows the ratings for all crossings, including the 2025 results. In total, 6% of the pipes within the system are rated as urgent, 62% as non-urgent, and 32% as no action needed. So this concludes my presentation, or my part of the presentation. Are there any questions?
I have one. What do you do with the ones that are urgent? How do you communicate with the LMA that it's urgent?
So every time we're done with inspections, we'll we'll write our reports, and then we'll send that report over to the LMA so they know, which pipes are, the various ratings. And then we also, every year, we send our list of urgent pipes to the board's enforcement section. And then, from their enforcement group, they'll prioritize that and work based off of that.
Thank you. Board members? Okay.
All right, thank you. I'll hand it back over to Wade.
Shocking.
This is the other section?
This is the other stuff. Next slide, please. Thank you. So now that we've covered the results of the inspection report, I want to just talk a little bit about some of the other stuff that the Flood Project Inspection and Assessment section is doing. One of our programs is the Levee View program. So we have a camera, you can see it in the picture there, that we can put on top of our vehicle, and we'll drive the levees, and we collect 360-degree imagery, and that lets our users, they have the ability to do a virtual site visit to any of our levees. So this is a great tool during a flood. We can kind of pop in on a site and take a look at, what our last imagery had for that area. I think it's a great tool for new projects to just sort of do a site visit without going there. Gives you a good idea if you're doing field work, what you might need to bring along.
Now, this photo, Levee View, what is that gray thing that's there?
Well, I think this is West Sacramento new setback levee, and it appears they had some slope stability issues, and so it was rain coated to prevent further movement.
Okay.
So that's
this thing.
Oh, that's the vehicle, ma'am.
Oh, okay. That's the vehicle. It's an odd-looking vehicle. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So our inspectors also provide oversight of Central Valley Flood Protection Board permits. In conjunction with Preston's team, we'll support efforts to make sure that projects are complying with the conditions in the permit. And that's typically for things like boat docks, pipes, pumping plants, and other minor projects. Next slide, please. So we're also leading the effort to improve flood fighting throughout the state. This year, our inspectors, along with some of the flood operations staff, taught 28 flood fight courses to 820 participants. And the 2025 fire season started out with our biggest response effort ever with the LA fires. DWR was asked to implement watershed protection measures for nearly 18,000 structures that were burned in the Eaton and Palisades fires. Our staff were deployed for 30 days, and with the help of other volunteers, we installed over 120 miles of emergency protective measures. And that was protecting LA waterways and the Pacific Ocean from contaminants from those fires. Next slide. We also coordinate and participate in coordination meetings throughout the year. And typically those are with the Corps, the board, and local maintaining agencies. And we continuously update the levee logs, documenting encroachments and features that exist on the levees. And that's an ongoing effort, and Preston's team also helps when there's new permits issued and they get to a construction level that is appropriate, we'll add that into the levee log. We continue our use of drones, and that helps us perform inspections and gain access to sites that we otherwise wouldn't be able to get to. And our flood fight specialists presented at DWR's preseason flood coordination meetings, helping to ensure communities across the state are ready for flood season. Next slide. So now that we've provided the results and shared some of our other activities, I'd like to thank the board for this opportunity and to open it up for any additional questions you might have.
There's one name on this that hasn't spoken yet. Are you shy? Okay. Nicely done. Board members, questions, whatever. We were given this less than a week ago, so I'm still doing my homework. I'm looking up everything that's next to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honka Creek, who cares?
It's a small piece, but
Yes, it is.
it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
consistent.
Yeah, it's old. Questions? In the room? Anybody have a comment, question? No hands up? I forgot to look to my, it's very difficult for me to look to my right. Member Bosler. Of course.
No, thank you. This is the day every year that we are reminded of how many how many enforcement issues we have, and so it's always a bit daunting. So I just was wondering. I mean, I love that the department has adopted the drone technology. I'm just wondering, as you've been doing this report year after year, like how you've thought about how to make this whole process more effective and meeting the goals that we have, which is really having this functional system and working collaboratively with the LMAs to make sure that we have that. I don't know if you've like had any observations or if there's tools or tricks that you guys have been doing quietly, just trying to improve every year, try and improve the outcomes and improve the process.
Use of drones with inspection or in the general process?
No, I mean just in general, like the process of compiling this report. I don't know, I'm just looking for like ways you've thought about improving it, like things that you have done or learned over the last year.
I think every year we look to our inspectors to help us innovate, and any ideas they have about how to improve the inspection program, we implement yearly with CDEC staff that helped us develop the tool. Visions for the future, I envision maybe having some GIS output that can be shared with the LMAs that would be more mobile. I think, we provide reports that are printouts or PDFs, and it shows a location and a picture of an issue and a description. And I would like to be able to provide the LMAs with an app that shows that when they're out on the levees, they could pick on a point or just show their relation to the point on a map so that they know that when they're doing a vegetation issue that we've noted, that they're standing there looking at, okay, yeah, that's the bamboo they're talking about. We do that with levee miles, and right now I think the LMAs know better than anybody what the levee miles are, so I think it's pretty effective as it stands, but there are things we could do.
Well, this is good stuff. Very informative, very interesting. It certainly points forward to what has been done, what needs to be done, and goals. But it is relatively new. 2007 is relatively new. This was all part of the legislation that finally looked at things that needed to be done in a cohesive way. So moving forward. I
see it the same way. Yeah. I mean, it's like this is our legal obligation, right? So, I mean, it's a much better documentation than maybe we had in the decades before. But I feel like the whole purpose of it is to create action too. And so I do think I love your idea about the GIS. Even kind of building off of the water rights crew the systems thinking, because the LMAs are responsible for small little slices of a big system. And we at the state have the bird's eye view, but we, want to, work to make sure that others understand their overall impact and role as well. And so I think that through these inspection reports, that's one of the ways that they can. So the more that they can be usable, actionable, not buried in this huge document. I don't know, just kind of trying to think about how we can improve and continue to be more effective. And I'd love to actually like have a roundtable with some LMAs about what would be helpful to them too.
Well, I think our inspection program and this report, I think it's a great program. I think we do a great job of identifying the issues that are out there. I think we have the tools that are useful to the LMAs. Not all LMAs are going to be able to use GIS. Many are represented by private engineering firms that can facilitate their use of those things, but many aren't. And it's farmer, and they're out there, and so a paper report that they can print, that they can go out on the levee and look at the levee mile, that's useful for them. I don't think the way we report to them, because this report isn't handed to every LMA. We give them their specific inspection results, which, some LMAs, those are 600 pages. Lower San Joaquin Levee District, I think, when we give them their report, it's a heavy-duty report. We've also provided tools for them to tone that down to things that are just maintenance, so it helps focus them a little more. It's still a long report. But I don't think that the way we report our results is the reason that the maintenance doesn't get done. I think there's other things that they're dealing with that are the greater issue. Money being,
There's that issue. And then Member Bosler's prior remark that government isn't necessarily organized to go quickly. Sometimes that's for good reason, as we see. Okay. Member Johnson, did you have your mic straight up?
Yes, but what I said was going to be said. It was already said. So I'll just want to thank you all again and the whole team. Send that back. That's an enormous amount of work, and it is critically important and a bit daunting, but it's where it all has to start. So thanks.
Thank you.
It's pretty clear what we need to do. But I need to call on Member Countryman because he's been quite silent, and usually he says something about this one. Member Countryman, are you there?
I am here.
Do you want to talk with me? You're on.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
The one thing I want to say is that in our last 10 years since I've been, with the board, the whole inspection and tracking system and changing stuff has been improved so immensely. It is so much more professional now than it was 10 years ago. And I think it's something we can really be proud of, the gains that they've made in tracking the system and reporting. All aspects of it has improved greatly. So I want to thank DWR and our own staff for the efforts they've been making.
Thank you for that. The strong partnership between DWR and the Flood Board really is showing with many of the things that are occurring and improving, and it's good stuff.
Yes, thank you.
But it is daunting. Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right.
Good information. That is the end of that report, right? You always tell me whether it is or not, so it is. The revised agenda added Department of Water Resources 10B. We received their monthly activity report after the first agenda was reported. So we look at that. We ask questions. Did anyone come across something that they wanted to say? Anybody in the room want to talk about the DWR monthly report they give to us? No hands up. Okay. We are moving quickly. Item 11 is staff activity reports. We have activity reports from our executive staff and administrative division, operations branch. There's a little echo there. Flood system improvement branch, natural resource management and planning division, And then we have an extra one, which is our executive officer delegated permit report, which we are grateful that he puts that together for us. Any comments on any of these, board members? Looking to my left. They're staring at me. Looking to my right. Nothing.
I do have some requests.
Of course.
The Department of Water Resources put out a new watershed study, the San Joaquin watershed study. It's a big body of work, late, I think it was in either November or December. But I think we should have an informational item and on that and have DWR have an opportunity to come present and talk about some of the key findings and issues.
Okay. Noted. Our executive officer is writing that down, figure out how we can do that. Workshop presentation, something, thank you. Any other comments on these reports? If it comes to your mind later on, that's entirely possible. Anyone in the audience want to talk about them? Anyone seen them? No hands up. Okay. Board comments, committee updates. Member Johnson and Member Betty. My brain just lost your last name. I'm sorry, it'll come back. You already corrected the one regarding the advisory committee. The coordinating committee will meet Tuesday, January 27th, in person at the West Sacramento City Hall, and there also is online participation as well. Our next meeting is a board workshop on Friday, February 13th. And then our next business board meeting, that's what this is, it's Friday, February 27th. And I've just been told that the closed session has been removed because you solved it. Thank you, Mr. Dewar. Is there anything else from anyone for the good of the order before I use the gavel? To my right. No, you're just putting your thumbs up. Ready to go? Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.